Hello, I'm Sabina Push, and this is Opera Lovers. This time the interview is with a man who describes himself as from the sidelines of opera. But as a pianist who regularly works with singers and a broadcaster on Radio 3, Iain Burnside has some revealing insights. Among other things, Iain spoke about his close friend, the late soprano Susan Chilcott, which gives me the perfect excuse to use an excerpt from a sublime collection of posthumous recordings that has recently been released on Cypres Records. The excerpts I've included are from the Aria del Salce, Ave Maria, where Susan Chilcott plays the role of Desdemona in Verdi's Otello, conducted by Antonio Pappano. And now for that chat with Iain Burnside. The interviewer is Yehuda Shapiro.
Iain Burnside, what is your active connection with opera as a pianist, as a broadcaster?
I play no active role at all in British operatic life, but I cheer from the touchlines, and given that I work with a lot of singers who are very involved in it, I hear a lot of the stories, and I'm very aware of how difficult it is to earn your living as an opera singer and how you have to turn up night after night and deliver the goods. And the higher your reputation, the more famous you are, the more you have to ensure that you're delivering every night, and it's very, very hard work. Because of the way recitals work in terms of opera schedules, quite often I have to fit in concerts or recordings with people who are in a run of an opera, and they maybe have 3 days between a performance. They'll sing a Magic Flute on the Monday, I'll rehearse with them on the Tuesday, and we might record on the Wednesday or the Thursday, and that's quite a normal thing because scheduling is such. Opera always wins, of course. That is a grim fact of a recitalist life, is that opera have all the trump cards. We lesser mortals have to work around that. But I often see bedraggled singers come through my front door the day after a show, and I see how tired they are, and they're vocally tired, of course, and they're also emotionally and physically drained, because if you're singing a performance of a role like Yennefer or Kachakampanova or Desdemona, there's no free lunch. You're not just going through the motions. They have a big emotional journey to make, and that all takes its toll too.
Could you give us some background as to how you became a pianist who specialises in working with singers?
As a young jobbing pianist, I was completely broke, and I got an invitation to do a concert at Aldborough. I was playing with an old friend who's the oboist Douglas Boyd, who's now a conductor, but Dougie Boyd was a marvellous oboist, and he was invited to play a little recital in the Britten Peers School. At the end of the concert, Peers came up and said, "Oh, that was very nice. We're looking for people to come and work in the school and accompany our song classes. Do you know the Britten songs at all?" And recognising a work opportunity where I said, "Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. We couldn't live without them." And I wouldn't have known a Britten song if it had punched me in the nose. And I went out, bought a whole load of Britten songs, learnt them, and turned up pretending that I knew them. And of course, by the end of the course, you do know them. On that course, I met lots of very nice, very talented young singers. They asked me to play in more courses. You know, there were a lot of people, Jonathan Darlington, a lot of people working there who've gone on and made careers in their respective areas. So it was the most fantastic way of getting to know that repertoire, getting to meet excellent young up-and-coming singers. I played for Queno's classes, Suzanne Donko, Hans Hotter. You just build up some repertoire knowledge and some instincts and hear marvellous insight from these people.
And what are the special needs of singers as opposed to instrumentalists?
An American colleague and friend of mine was asked this question, and he said rather bitterly, the ability to hem dresses. Well, on one level, you can say it's all chamber music, and music's music. But I think To do it as a career or as a job, there are some tricks of the trade which you have to acquire. You have to have the ability to play different languages in a particular way and understand that the German language makes certain demands on how you approach it that are different from the French or Italian language. You need to be in sympathy with singers. You have to love singers as a breed. You have to love the human voice and appreciate what they do and appreciate some of the difficulties of what they do. And it does help if you have a certain level of diva tolerance.
And do you work with singers on operatic repertoire as well as on song repertoire?
The simple answer is no. I just have far too much respect for the people who do that well on a high professional level and see how necessary and how vital they are.
To what degree do you think the opera coach really is responsible for the singer's knowledge of an opera and their ability to perform it?
I think hugely. I think the opera coach is vital. There is a certain sort of music coach who remains in the behind the scenes, is invisible to the person buying their ticket, who is responsible really for the musical quality of what goes on stage. And I know some very good singers who don't work with voice teacher because they get so much vocal input from vocal coaches, because they listen to the voice in a particular way and often have huge technical knowledge, help a singer find their way into a particular role, or even in some cases a particular language. Then obviously there's a language coach who works with them, but the music coach can be hugely influential in the choice of vocal colour, in the choice of vocal register, and just the real nuts and bolts which put a vocal performance together.
On a broader level, what do you feel is opera's place in modern society?
Oh golly, that is a big one. I have a certain grudging respect for the naysayers who say, look at all the money it costs, and oh, football gets no subsidy, and that's a sort of culture too. I can actually see that argument, but opera is and always has been an expensive game, and it needs subsidy, and when all the elements in it merge, there's just nothing like it. It's a unique form of theatre, and as so many of us do, I just hope that the expense of the art form doesn't preclude everyone having a shot at it or trying it out. One thing that is very sad is the way in the last 10 and 20 years there has been a decline in the smaller companies, which I think has a big impact nationally, both in terms of people not living in big metropolitan cities having access to opera, and also, and vitally, younger generations of singers getting their hands dirty and really getting a chance to try out larger roles in smaller productions, and maybe finding out that they can't yet sing the Countess or whatever, making the mistakes. I mean, being able to make mistakes in places where the stakes aren't too high is terribly important.
What kind of responses have you seen in audiences over the years?
I think in the last 20 years or so, I've seen a change towards opera becoming more inclusive, actually. I see more young people trying it out. I see people not bothering to dress up as much, which I kind of think is a good thing, really. And I think things like Opportunity on Channel 4 was actually very important. That has sold it to some new people. Every company in the land is busting their gut to get out and build new audiences, and I think a lot of it's working. And I also think, as with recital audiences, there's always some Cassandra saying, oh, the audience is going to die, oh, it's all old people, oh, it's all people in their 50s and 60s. Well, yes, that I think does remain the core audience because they've got the time and in many cases the disposable income, and also because classical music like gardening is one of the things that you do come to in later years. You do actually realise things about truth and beauty